Hello and welcome to the second edition of Tuff Voyaging Abridged. In this episode we are going to be reading The Plague Star, which is the first story in the anthology. To fill in the holes, before the story starts, I'll introduce the characters. Presumably it starts with this character Celise Warren, who is sort of an academic, and she, on Chandelure, finds the record that the prologue referenced. And by reading through this record or listening to it, and talking with her friend Jeffrey Lyon, who himself was a military veteran and historian, they figure out that the record is talking about a seed ship. You know, the plague star that's fucking up that planet of, what was it, Banana, that planet. The plague star that was fucking that up is an old ecological engineering corps seed ship, and they're going to go take control of it. So they need to assemble a team. They get to somebody called Kaj Nevis, and he's like this criminal mastermind. He's got all the contacts that's going to help them get this seed ship without ruining their chance for profit. But Kaj Nevis is some shady character, so Jeffrey Lyon hires a bodyguard named Rika Dawnstar, and she's like pretty off-putting, in that she doesn't give a shit and doesn't want to talk to people and is mostly there just for the money. And they also hire they call him a cyber tech, called Anitas. He's like a half-human, half-computer. And I imagine he's supposed to just get the seed ship back online once they get there. I don't know, he's like a computer interface maybe. Whatever. So the story starts with all 5 of these characters trying to figure out how to get to the seed ship, and they're arguing about how they're gonna do it. And Celise says we should just hire a nice Starliner. They're really comfortable and they get good food. Nevis says no, let's not do that. She's like, oh come on, I've done it a million times before. And he's like, yeah, you've done it a million times before, you fucking idiot, because it was for research, which was like sanctioned and you had the government paying for it. What we're doing right now is super illegal, and we don't want anyone to know about it because it's worth a fuckload of money, and if anybody knows about it, they're going to try and take that money from us. So no, we're not going to hire some goddamn Starliner. And then Celise kind of whines, and she's like, but Starslip has a reputable reputation, and and Nevis is like, you fucking idiot. No, we're not going to hire a Starliner. We might have to fucking kill whoever takes us there, because they're going to try and steal our shit from us. And we don't want to deal with a big-ass Starliner if they have 100 crew. We need one person. And then Celise says, but if they cheat us, then we'll sue them. And Nevis is like, but where? In what courts? This is fucking illegal, you dumb, idiot, stupid bitch. And that's almost verbatim from the book right there. And Jeffrey Lyon's like, hey, come on, we're all on the same side here. We don't gain anything by insulting each other. And the cyber tech Anitas agrees. He's like, yeah, insults are useless. Let's figure this shit out. And Celise says, well, we need a ship. Nevis goes, well, Transcore, your Starliners have no monopoly on ships. That's why I suggested we meet here at this shitty, stupid port dockyard thing instead of Jeffrey Lyon's fancy office, because we're going to hire an independent trader and he's going to take us there. And they're all like, oh, independent? Well, they're pretty unsavory, right? And he's like, well, so am I. And that doesn't really solve any of the problems. So Nevis says, we don't want to take any chances. We're going to hire some small ship to take us there. And he throws out some names, and Celise is like, oh, well, let's fucking do it. Let's go get those people. And Nevis is like, no, you idiot. I threw out those names to waste time, because we're not going to take these people because they're violent and they'll kill us. So I don't know why I brought them up in the first place. And then he brings up that only Nevis himself and Rika Dawnstar are like even capable of fighting, because the other 3 are just computer people or fat academics or 125 years old like Jeffrey Lyon. And Jeffrey Lyon's like, well, I'm a soldier, I've seen combat. And Nevis says, a gajillion years ago, you old fucker, shut up. You don't count. It's only me and Rika Dawnstar who can fight. If we need to fight, so we need to consider that. And then Celise says, my niece serves on a very nice independent trading ship. And she says the name, Noah Wackerfuss of the World of Bargains. And Nevis goes, oh yeah, Fat Noah. That's a piece of shit ship. And he probably wouldn't kill us, but he's going to steal our stuff. And by the way, your niece is a whore. Because reasons. And then Celise goes, fuck you. And then everyone argues for a little bit. And then Nevis goes, oh, okay, shut up. I know who we're going to do it. Who's going to take us there? And Nevis goes, who? Anitas the cyber-tech says, who? He says, the man is an independent trader. He's not very successful. He's right here, stuck on Chandelure, because no one's been trading with him for the last 6 months. And guess what? He's a big fat dude, and he likes cats. He drinks too much, and he eats too much. He probably doesn't even carry a weapon. I bet we could kill him and feed him to his cats if we had to. And then Jeffrey Lyon says, no, we're not killing anyone. And then Nevis brings up, well, why did you hire a goddamn bodyguard if you weren't planning on killing me? Listen, I know this guy. This is our choice. He's the right dude. And then suddenly, Haviland Tuff, the man in flesh, copious flesh, appears in the doorway, and they all just kind of look at him. And he's described as having big hands, a long, curiously blank face, a stiff, awkward posture. Everywhere his skin was as white as bleached bone, and appeared that he did not have a hair on him. So he's super bald, and he's a big fat, he's really tall, he's a big fat dude. And he has the strangest, I'm probably going to quote Haviland Tuff directly most of the time, because he just talks. He's got the best way of talking. So they all just stare at each other for a really long time, and no one says anything, and then suddenly they all start turning back to each other, and Anitas, the cyborg, goes, who the fuck is he? But more like a computer would say it, as in, inquiry, who is this gentleman? And Nevis says his name is Tuffy, Haviland Tuff. Alright, so some time passes, and now they're aboard Haviland Tuff's ship. They're going toward the sea ship, and they're playing Haviland Tuff and Rika Dawnstar are playing what I guess is space chess. And Haviland says, I must claim the victory. And Rika's like, yep, you win again. And he's like, well, let's play again. And she's like, nope, you're way too good, and I don't like losing. And Haviland Tuff says, I've been most fortunate in the games we have played thus far. Undoubtedly my luck will have run its course by now, and you will obliterate my poor forces on your next attempt. Rika's like, yeah, probably, but let me wait until I'm super fucking bored, and then we can get back to this game. At least I'm better than Jeffrey Lyon, right? And talks about how Jeffrey's just sulking in a corner because he's super educated on military strategy and tactics, and he can't win against Haviland Tuff in space chess. And he says, I employed the same tactics that Stephen Cobalt Northstar used when the 13th Human Fleet enveloped Hrakean. Tuff's counter-thrust was completely wrong under the circumstances, and if the rules had been written properly, it should have been routed. Haviland says, yes, you had the advantage on me, sir. You, after all, have the good fortune to be a military historian, and I am merely a humble trader. I lack your familiarity with the great campaigns of history. How fortunate for me that thus far the deficiencies of the game itself and my extraordinary fortune have conspired to make up for my ignorance. Still, I would welcome the opportunity to strengthen my grasp of military principles if you would care to essay the game once again. I will carefully study your subtle strategies so that I might in future incorporate a sounder, more authentic approach into my own poor play. And then Jeffrey Lyon starts to he's kind of reluctantly giving Tuff a lesson on how the game works that he can't win at. And then suddenly there's this big sound, and Celise 1, the fat little academic, runs out of the living quarters and is chasing one of Haviland Tuff's cats, and she's screaming, catch it! And her face she's obviously allergic to cats. Her face was red and puffy and swollen. She looked furious. And Haviland's like, well, why the fuck should I catch the cat? And Celise holds up her hand and says, look what it did to me! And there's 3 deep scratches on her palm. And Haviland Tuff says, well, yeah, she did that to you. What did you do to her? And Kaj Nevis walks out and he's like, well, she picked up the cat to throw it across the room. And Celise goes on this really long rant about how fucking terrible cats are and says, I wanted to take a nap. It was on the bed. I hate animals. This is all your fault, Kaj Nevis, for bringing us on this terrible boat. Tuff, you need to get rid of those cats. And Rika's like, oh, are these she picks up one of the cats and says, oh, this is one of the terrible little monsters you're talking about? And the cat loves her and they're playing. And then Celise says, well, no, it's the other one that hurt me. It's the black and white one, and she's the one that we gotta kill. And she goes on a long rant about how terrible cats are in general, despite her allergies. Like, she talks about how cats fuck with her food and, like, push all of her pencils and pens around, and she loses all of her stuff, and she just loses her shit. She's like, this is intolerable. Put the animals in the cargo hold right now. She says, at once, do you hear? And Tuff says, oh, my hearing is quite adequate, thank you. And then she complains about the ship some more. And Haviland Tuff goes on about how, yeah, it's kind of shitty right now. I've been having bad luck. And he says that the name of his ship is the Cornucopia of Excellent Goods at Low Prices. And he says, yeah, it's really small. It's not comfortable for a lot of people, but, like, I needed the work, so I was pretty stoked when you showed up and hired my vessel, but it's shitty. And that's what you get for what you paid. And then he says, guess what, Celise Swan? You're just gonna have to tolerate the cats, because this is their permanent home and you're just a guest here, so fuck off. And she says, well, I never. And Haviland Tuff says, I have no doubt. And then she complains about how there's tons of cargo space and we should use the cargo space for rooms. We should retrofit them to be storage or living quarters. And Haviland Tuff says, yeah, go for it. But do you want to rent a pressure suit while you're at it? And it turns out the storage compartments are not supporting of life. They don't have life support. So it jumps forwards some more time, and it talks about how it doesn't make any fucking sense that there needs to be a day-night cycle on a ship in deep space, but because humans evolved on a planet with a day-night cycle, we need a day-night cycle. So there's a day-night cycle on the Cornucopia of Excellent Goods at Low Prices. Rika Dawnstar doesn't sleep very much, so she wakes up in the middle of one of these nights and looks around and sees all the other passengers snoring. It's kind of cool, the cyber tech, Anitas, hasn't been mentioned yet. To deal with the shittiness of a long voyage through deep space, he just parked himself on a cot and plugged into the ship's computer and turned himself off while his cyber half monitors his bio half, and he goes into like a deep slumber. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, all the other assholes are just sleeping and snoring, and Rika wakes up and she goes up to the bridge. She sees Haviland Tuff with a bunch of cats in his lap, and she's like, oh, you're still up. And Tuff turns around and goes, oh, a most remarkable deduction. Here I sit before you, active, busy, driven by the demands of my ship. From the scant evidence of your eyes and ears, you leap to the conclusion that I am not yet asleep. Your powers of reasoning are awesome. And then Rika, who ignored the incredible sarcasm from Tuff, just says, yeah, I'm awake too. And Tuff goes, oh, I can scarcely believe it. And then they shoot the shit for a minute, and they talk about playing a game, and Rika says, let's play this conspiracy game. And Tuff says, okay, I like learning new games. And they talk about how Celise and Lion have found something really, really, really valuable. And it's kind of bullshit that both she and Haviland Tuff don't get a share of the profits from that. They only get like a fee that they had already agreed to, like, you know, some small nominal bodyguard / courier fee. She's like, well, if this thing's worth so much goddamn money, it doesn't seem quite fair to me that, we're here too. We're risking our lives and whatnot. We should get more profit than the agreement that we came upon initially. And Haviland Tuff wisely says, equity is often difficult to judge and still more difficult to achieve. I might wish that my compensation were more generous, but no doubt many could make the same complaint. It is nonetheless the fee that I negotiated and accepted. And Rika's like, well, hey, we got some fucking leverage here. We can reopen these negotiations, and Haviland's like, oh, it's intriguing, and, a lot of sensibilities would recommend doing such a thing. But I don't think it's a good thing to do. And Rika's like, yeah, deep down you're a stickler for rules. And he's like, well, yeah, rules are the essence of games. That's, it's fucking important that you obey them, otherwise, what's the point? She's like, well, I just like causing chaos. Sometimes it's more fun to kick over the board. Haviland Tuff's like, I wish I was making more money too, but I don't want Kaj Nevis speaking poorly of me and my ship, my merchant ship. And Rika goes, oh, he's gonna kill you, dude. He's not gonna speak poorly of you because you won't exist. And Tuff's like, yep. Literally his response, just, indeed. Rika's like, aren't you curious about, like, why we have so much secrecy about this mission? Like, we didn't know where we were going until we were already underway. And, Haviland's like, yep, that's my greatest weakness is curiosity. I'm super curious. And Rika says, it's gonna be worth a lot of money. There's a lot of shit at the end of this trip. We're gonna get rich. Or at least they are, and we're not gonna be rich. But maybe we can make ourselves rich. And Haviland's like, nah, I'm not gonna do it. And Rika says, okay, well, there might come a time when you wish you had an ally. And even though Nevis probably underestimated you, you shouldn't underestimate him or me. So yeah, you might wish you had an ally sometime. Peace out. So some more time passes. It jumps to when they are 3 days shy of arriving at the siege ship. They're all sitting down to dinner, and Celise Swan is complaining about how shitty the food is. She's like, why can't we have some real food? And Haviland Tuff picks up a fat mushroom, looks at it, and pulls in front of his face. And he thinks, and he says, I fail to grasp the nature of your complaint, madam. This mushroom, at least, seems real enough to my own poor senses. True, it is but a small sample of the whole. Perhaps the rest of the brouhaha... They're eating brouhaha. Perhaps the rest of the brouhaha is illusory. Yet I think not. And she's like, oh, you know what I meant. And Haviland's like, I know what you mean. You want meat, and I want to be rich, but some things aren't easily done. Celise says, I'm tired of these fucking vegetables. And Haviland's like, well, I do have a little bit of meat, but I don't eat meat myself, so I don't know if it's any good, but there is some. And Celise fucking stands up and grabs her plate of, like, it's kind of a soupy vegetable broth stuff. And she throws it across the room. She throws it across the room and it lands on Rika Dawnstar's bed. And Rika just smiles and goes, well, we just swapped bunks, lady. And Celise like, I don't give a shit, I'm getting some real food. I guess you guys are all gonna want some too. And Rika's like, nope, all yours. And Kaj Nevis like, nah, you're good, I don't want it. She demands Tuff bring him the meat. And Haviland's like, man, I swear I did agree to feed you guys, but like there wasn't any agreement about the type of food you're gonna get. I'm just always being put upon. I'm always, at the victim of other people's stupid whims. It's bullshit. That's what he says. It's bullshit. And then he's like, alright, well, in return for me giving you this little thing, because I'm a nice dude, I want you to indulge my curiosity. I want you to tell me why we're going to this destination. So apparently Tuff doesn't know about the siege ship yet. And Celise is like, well, I don't know if we should. This is Jeffrey. I don't think we should tell him. And Jeffrey's like, well, fuck it. Tell him. He's going to know when we get there anyway. So Celise goes on this long monologue about how this is the most important thing that she's ever done, and she was trying to do some like anthropology bullshit, but then she came across that record that detailed the plague star, and she said how she talks about the nature of the plague star and how on Hro Brana, that planet in the prologue, the underpopulation is really bad because everybody dies every 3 generations, and there's these 2 different cultures, the Hrun and Dactyloid colonists. The Dactyloids were probably those gliders or flyers from the prologue. They hate each other. They're very hostile to each other, but they both have like the same origin story for these recurring plagues, and it's that plague star. So she worked out that this must mean, something big. So that's when she brought it up to Jeffrey Lyon, who, with his background in military history, was able to deduce that it was in fact an old siege ship from the Federal Empire of Old Earth. But then there was a collapse at one point, and all that information and knowledge was lost. So Jeffrey's like, this is so fucking valuable because, this represents a container of information that's been lost to humanity for 1,000 years. And then Kaj Nevis is like, oh, and it's all ours, and he's really shady about it. So now Haviland Stuff's like, oh, well, that's pretty interesting. Thanks for telling me. Now I'll give you some food. And Soliswan's like, yeah, my meat. And then Haviland's like, well, we got plenty of it, but like I said, I've never had it, so I don't know if it's any good. You'll have to prepare it in some way that suits your palate. And then he pulls out a big box of cat food. And Rika Dawnstar bursts into laughter. Kaj Nevis is laughing. But they're all laughing, and Sleeswan just starts pouting, and she's defeated. Alright, so it jumps forward a couple more days. So they've now arrived. It starts with Solis going, oh, it's not as big as I expected. And Tuff is like, well, my main view screen isn't that big, you're right. And, I've scaled it down so that it could fit on this main view screen. But the ship itself is quite large. And Kaj Nevis goes, how big? And Tuff says, well, this is kind of a shitty ship, so I don't have good measurement tools, but, approximately, I'll say it's 10 kilometers long, 30 kilometers long, 5 kilometers wide, maybe 3 kilometers in height. And then there's this big old dome, and that adds like another 1 kilometer from the deck that it rises, so it's fucking huge. And they're all sitting in this, in the bridge, looking at the view screen, checking this thing out, and Jeffrey's like, oh shit, I knew it, it's right, I'm right, it's a fucking sea ship, shit! And Kaj Nevis is smiling, he's like, damn! And then Anitas is like, shit man, that thing's fucking huge, those are old Earth Imperials are they were really sophisticated, it's probably got an artificial intelligence on it. And then Solis, the academic, is like, oh, we're rich and famous, we're all rich. And then Haviland's like, well, not yet. Your pockets are still empty. So I'm not rich, and Rika's not rich. We're not rich. And Nevis is like, are you complaining? And Tuff's just like, no, it's just Solis is an idiot, and I needed to correct her. And Kaj is like, yep, you're right, good. Now we need to get aboard that damn thing. Even if it's a derelict, it's going to give us a huge salvage fee, but if that ship's still working, we are fucking rich. No limit at all. And Jeffrey chimes in, he says, well, it's obviously functional. It's been raining plagues on that Hro Banana planet for every 3rd generation for 1,000 fucking years. And, oh, hey kitty. I got my own kitty here helping me record a story about a man who's got kitties. So anyway, it's obviously functional. Nevis is like, yeah, it's true, it's working. And how the fuck do we get aboard? Well, we could dock. Hey, Haviland Tuff, Jeffrey says this. Haviland Tuff, do you see that docking dome up there? Haviland's like, my vision is unimpaired. Well, we could land on that dome, maybe. You could crack it open and if we could crack open that dome, we could just land the ship right in it. Hamlin's like, well, if. A most difficult word, if. So short and so often fraught with disappointment and frustration. And then right as he said that, a big beeping message came on board the screen, and it was a communication. They're like, oh, fuck, communication. So the picture of the seed ship on the main screen disappeared and was replaced by an image of like a middle-aged dude. He was wearing a uniform that Jeffrey recognized as being from old Earth, so it was, 1,000-year-old uniform. It looked like it was straight out of a history documentary. The man says, "This is Ark," he announced. "You have entered our defense sphere. Identify yourself or be fired upon. This is your first warning." And Haviland responds, he's like, "Oh, hey, we're just a merchant ship. We want to come dock with you." And Solis is like, "Oh my god, they're still alive!" And Jeffrey speculates about how they could have survived for 1,000 years. Or if maybe these were descendants of the initial crew. Kaj Neves is like, "God damn it, there's people there. How are we going to take control of this ship if it's still controlled by a crew?" So he's all pissy about that. And then the image comes back on. It's the same dude, same guy on the Ark. And he says the message, "This is the Ark. Your ID is improperly coded. You are moving through our defense sphere. Identify yourself or be fired upon. This is your second warning." And Haviland responds, he starts to get exasperated. He's like, "I must protest. We're not armed, we're just some traders and scholars. We're not doing anything bad. We're not hostile. We just want to come hang out and check out your sweet ship." Then the third message comes, "This is Ark. You've penetrated our defense sphere. Identify yourself immediately or be destroyed. This is your third and final warning." Kaj Neves realizes, they're the recordings. It's a computer playing these recordings at us. Tuff agrees, like, "Yep, you're correct." What else could that computer be recording or programmed to do? He wonders. Then, so Jeffrey Lyon remembers suddenly that he has a whole bunch of like old Federal Empire codes, because he's a historian and they collect that kind of shit. So he's gonna go get the codes, and that'll help them have the right identification to be able to approach the ship. And Haviland's like, "Yeah, that's a great idea. It's too bad that they just fired upon us, so too late." And then he says, "Well, I'm gonna take us back into warp drive or whatever. Let's get out of here." But then suddenly the whole ship shook violently, and everyone screamed a little bit, and it went dark. And Tuff is like, "Well, I spoke too soon, or perhaps more accurately, I acted too late." And so their ship's all debilitated and decapitated. It's all debilitated and it's dark. It's just silence, and they're just waiting for the second missile to come blow them up and kill them all. But then it doesn't happen, and Tuff does like a little damage assessment, and he says, "Oh, we're not entirely disabled. I'll get a damage report, but we might be able to retreat." Solis starts whining a whole bunch, and Kaj Neves tells her to shut the fuck up, and then tells Tuff to move, because we're gonna all die. And then Tuff's like, "Well, we're still moving. The shot, because of physics, the shot didn't stop us. That's not how that shit works. It deflected us a little bit. Maybe that's why the Ark isn't firing on us, because we're not moving directly towards them anymore. But unfortunately, the ship is fucked, and I can't go back into interstellar drive mode. The closest... Oh, by the way, life support got fucked up too. We only have 9 hours of oxygen. And Kaj Neves cursed, and Solis continued to whine. And Anitas tried to be helpful. It was like, "Oh, I'll shut down myself again, and that'll conserve oxygen." And Solis, everyone ignores him, but Solis says, "Oh, but we can kill the cats." And Tuff says, maneuvering... Everyone ignores her too. "The maneuvering engines are still operable," Tuff says. But even with that, since we can't go into interstellar drive mode, closest destination would be 2 years away. We only have 9 hours. So that's not going to work. However, we can take advantage of my four of us can take refuge in some pressure suits, and there's some air recycling mechanisms in there that can effectively recycle oxygen indefinitely. But then Solis says, well, I refuse to live in a pressure suit for 2 years. Tuff says, excellent. Excellent, as I only have 4 suits, and we are 6 in number, this will be of great help. Your noble self-sacrifice will long be remembered, madam. Before we put this plan into motion, however, we need to consider one more option. So they think about what they're going to do, and they go tell Jeffrey to go get that goddamn identification chip, because maybe that'll make their lives easier. So he goes and looks. Tuff's cat, Mushroom, cat's name is Mushroom, comes and sits on his lap, and he's purring, and it's really cute. And then, so Jeffrey finally comes back, but he doesn't have the chip. And it turns out he probably forgot it back on Chandelure, or whatever that planet was called. Chandelure? So everyone's like, God damn it, Jeffrey, you senile old fuck. You were supposed to have that shit, and now you don't have it, and we're gonna die, because of you. And Solis is like, we're dead. And Haviland Tuff does the same thing. He's like, dude, you're not dead yet, just like you're not rich. Quit being so dramatic. Then he's like, well, I got an idea, maybe we can save ourselves. Tuff says that. And he explains, the Ark is our only salvation, this ship is fucked. We gotta get aboard the Ark. And without stupid Jeffrey's federal ID crystals, we can't move this fucked up ship, any closer to the Ark, or it'll get blown up. So we need to figure something else out. What if maybe something smaller won't be so, considered dangerous, and the Ark won't fire upon it? Something smaller, like a man in a pressure suit, for example. And then Kajneva says, well, what's that dude gonna get? God damn it, what's that dude gonna do when he gets to the ship? It's still sealed up, right? It looks to be in good shape. Tuff's like, well, I got a plan for that. Then he kind of trails off. Kajnevis goes, go on. Tuff's like, go on? Sorry, I'm a little distracted right now. My fucking ship just blew up, and, we almost all died, and, now I don't have... I was already broke dick before I, took on this mission, and now, my only means of survival is gone because of you assholes. And, what happens if we take control of this ship? I don't have a share in this endeavor. Is Kajnevis gonna repay me for, all the risks I've taken? Are Jeffrey and Anitas, are they gonna buy me a new ship? Is Solis Juan, who's already threatened legal action against me uncountable times, is she gonna help me out? I doubt it. Who's gonna fucking help me here? I'm a little distracted. Kajnevis is like, forget about all that shit. You said you had a way to get on. And Haviland Tuff again says, yep, I did, but I forgot because I just realized all this terrible shit I gotta deal with now. And Rika Dawnstar laughs and slaps Tuff on the back because she knows what he's doing right now. He looks up at her and he goes, well, and now I'm so roughly pummeled and beaten as well by the fierce Rika Dawnstar. Please do not touch me, madam. Turns out that's a recurring theme. Haviland Tuff does not like being touched. So Solis says, it's blackmail. This is blackmail. Fuck you. I'm gonna put you in prison. And Tuff's like, now my integrity's being impugned. God, I hate these people. He relents to, Mushroom. Relents. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. He talks to Mushroom, and says, is it any wonder I cannot think, Mushroom? These fucking assholes won't leave me alone. Kajnevis is like, alright. I see what you're doing. Full share. How about that? A 5-way split. And Jeffrey's like, yeah, he deserves that. Solis whines about it, but then Haviland's like, alright. My memory returns to me. There are 4 pressure suits in the locker over yonder. If one of you would be so kind as to don one and render me your aid, together we shall go to procure a most useful piece of equipment from storage compartment 12. So Tuff and Nevis go get the thing from storage compartment 12. Rika's like, what the fuck is that thing? Solis also says, what the fuck is that thing? They come in with this big package, and it's obviously some sort of spacesuit. Tuff says, it's a spacesuit, madam. I would think that is obvious. And in fact, it was a spacesuit, but it turns out it's a spacesuit from some other alien empire. Let's see, it's an Unquin battlesuit from the Himerian dynasty, which fell 1,500 years ago. And it's described as being 3 meters tall. It was way huge, way bigger than even Avalon Tuff, who himself is 2.5 meters tall. And huge and fat. And it's super ornate. It's got like 4 arms, and they're double jointed. And the bottom has serrated pincers. The bottom 2 arms. The legs are broad enough for small trees. And the foot pads are like circular saucers. So like 4-legged bipedal elephant creatures with pincers. That's what the Unquin were. So it's this pretty sweet thing. And Kajnevis is like, well, that looks cool, but it looks like it's not going to help us all. It looks like a piece of junk. And Avalon Tuff's like, bitch, please. This mechanism which you so disparage is an antique rich with history. Then he talks about all its history. And then Rika Dawnstar's like, but what does it all do, Tuff? Just like Austin Powers. And Tuff goes, you fucking idiots. There's 2 great things about it. 1, it amplifies the strength of the wearer by like a factor of 10. And 2, it's got this sick like cutting laser that can cut through 0.5 meter of duralloy. Super badass mega metal steel. And Jeffrey Lyon goes, splendid! And like claps his hands together in glee. And Kajnevis is like, alright, that's cool, let's do that. And then Tuff talks about the plan. The plan is for him and Anitas and Rika Dawnstar to suit up with Tuff inside the badass battlesuit. And they're going to fly through space and go land on the ship, the seed ship, and cut their way in, and then use Anitas's mega awesome computer brain to like hack into the Ark, the seed ship, and supersede any hostile programming there, and then come rescue all the folks stuck on the cornucopia of excellent goods at low prices. Solis immediately assumes that Tuff just wants to leave them to die, which Tuff responds with like, why must my morality be constantly assaulted by these accusations? He's a man of honor, Avalon Tuff. He really is. Kajnevis, strangely enough, says, oh, it's a good plan. Anitas hirelings suit up, and he just seems like he's going to go along with it. And then Selisa's like, but you're going to let them abandon us here? And she gets all pissy. And Jeffrey Lyon, who's like, really, he's probably the least douchey of all the people here. But we'll get to that. So he's like, oh, I'm sure they mean us no harm. And how the fuck are we going to stop them, even if they did? So Avalon Tuff and Kajnevis move the battlesuit down to the airlock, and Dawnstar and Anitas suit up. And then Avalon Tuff starts to get into the battlesuit, and just as he's about to do that, Kajnevis grabs him by the shoulder and pulls him back. Avalon's like, dude, don't fucking touch me. Kajnevis had produced a vibroblade, though, a vibro-knife. And it could cut through solid steel. Which, like, if they had solid steel in the seed ship, why did they need the battlesuit in the first place? If she's got this badass knife, there's got to be someplace they could cut in. Anyway, Kajnevis says, yeah, this is a good plan, but fuck you, I'm taking the battlesuit, and you can stay here. And he just admits, like, and you're gonna die, I'm not gonna rescue you. Tuff says, I do not approve of this substitution. I'm chagrined that you two would truckle to unfounded suspicion of my motives. I assure you, as I have assured Solis Wan, that thought of treachery has never crossed my mind. Kajnevis goes, oh, that's great, but it crossed my mind, and it seems like a great fucking idea. So, I'm taking the suit. And Haviland's like, oh, you guys are assholes, and guess what? Anitas and Rika are behind you now, so you're done. And Rika Dawnstar was hired to literally prevent this exact thing, so surrender. And Rika says, hey man, remember when we talked about how you shouldn't underestimate Kajnevis and me, and how you might want an ally? now's that time, because I'm peacing out on you assholes. I'm going with Cash, and I'm going with Anita's, and we're leaving you behind. And at this point, Celeste Swan has gotten close to the airlock, and she figures out what's going on, and she looks around for a weapon to stab somebody, and she finds the cat mushroom. She picks it up and screams, "You!" while throwing the cat at Kaj Nevis. Kaj Nevis ducks, and mushroom hits Anita's. And Haviland Tuff says, "Kindly cease flinging about my cats." And Nevis recovered and got inside the suit, or rather, threatened everybody and made them back off. And he got inside the suit, and he started playing around with the functionalities a little bit. And like the helmet, the faceplate, became this deep blood red color. And he's just kind of flailing around. And then they leave. So they open the airlock, and right before they can't talk anymore, Rika says, "Sorry folks, nothing personal, just arithmetic." And Haviland Tuff says, "Indeed, subtraction." So then it cuts forward, I imagine just a few minutes. The three people left on the ship, Haviland Tuff, Celeste Swan, and Jeffrey Lyon, are sitting in the bridge of the ship, and they're just complaining. Well, Haviland's not, he's just sitting there with his cats. But Celeste is complaining, and Jeffrey's complaining, and he's going, "This is all my fault." And Celeste says, "No, it's Haviland's fault, Haviland Tuff's fault." And Haviland's like, "Man, you are not very appreciative." She's like, "What am I supposed to appreciate?" He says, "Well, we got stuff, for example. We have a pressure suit that Kaj Nevis didn't take." Celeste responds by pointing out that there's no propulsion systems, because Kaj Nevis took all the propulsion systems, all the jetpacks. And Tuff says, "Well, our air's going to last twice as long with our numbers cut in half." And Celeste is like, "Well, we're still going to run out." And then Tuff says, "Well, Kaj Nevis and his cohorts did not use the battlesuit to destroy our ship that we're on right now, as they might have." And she responds like, "Well, Nevis preferred to see us die a lingering death." Tuff points out that more likely he wanted to keep the ship around in case he couldn't board the siege ship once they made it there. So Tuff, muses to himself, "Well, we got shelter and provisions, and we might be able to maneuver. So we have options. We don't need to despair just yet." And then Celeste despairs. She says, "What we have is a crippled ship, and it's running out of air, and we're fucked." And just that moment, Havoc, the younger of Haviland Tuff's cats, starts bounding into the room, and it's chasing a little ring that's rolling along on the ground. And Celeste yelps. She goes, "My glowstone ring! I've been looking for that! God damn it, you filthy fucking cat!" And she bent down and grabbed the ring, and she tries to punch the cat. She tries to punch Havoc, but she misses, and instead Havoc claws the shit out of her hand. So she shrieks. Haviland Tuff quickly grabs the ring and the cat and gives Celeste the ring and says, "Your property, here's your property, you fucking idiot." And she says, "Before I die, I swear I'm going to grab that creature by the tail and smash its brains on a bulkhead." Then Tuff goes into a little monologue about how nice cats are, and they're really actually very intelligent. And in fact, all cats have a touch of psi, and that's the first mention we have of this concept of psi, which is kind of like really a small part of this story, but it comes up later. Anyway, then he says the primitives of old Earth were known to worship cats. And Celeste responds, "Well, I've studied primitives who worship fecal matter, and that animal is a filthy beast." And Tuff's like, "Actually, you're wrong, you fucking idiot. The feline is fastidiously clean. Havoc is actually just a kitten, and who the fuck can't be so charmed by all her cute little shenanigans that kittens get into? Only the most stony-hearted bitch would not like cats. Even the people who are allergic to cats. Look how cute they are. How cute they are." And then he comes to he just has a little epiphany. He kind of zones off for a second. And he gets up and he gets the cat off of his lap, and then he lowers himself to his knees, gets down on his hands and knees, and starts crawling around looking under the consoles. Selisa's like, what the fuck are you doing? He says, I'm looking for Havoc's lost toys. She says, I'm bleeding, we're running out of air, and you're looking for cat toys? He's like, well, I did just say that, yes. And then he reaches under one of the consoles and he pulls out a handful of shit. He hands Celise a couple of pencils that are hers and a ring. He's like, here, these are yours, shut up. And then he takes a couple pieces for space chests and more pencils, they're his. And then he's like, and this, I believe, and hands this to Jeffrey. He goes, I think this is yours. And it's a light, very light crystal the size of a thumbnail. And Lion bounds to his feet and he goes, oh, holy fuck, it's the chip! The federal ID code's chip! And Avalon just calmly is like, yep. And I think that's where I'm going to end it for this edition of Tuff Voyaging Abridged. We're just over 45 minutes for about half. Oh shit, really about a third of this first story. This is going to take a long time to get through. Well, that was part 1. Part 2 will come around maybe never. Thanks for listening.